Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Reaction Time podcast. Episode whatever, season whatever, series whatever. Um, I was trying to think of some other hilarious thing. I didn't prep an opening monologue correctly for this.
You didn't prep your
Um,
opening monologue for this show?
no, God, why would I ever do that? What is this, Saturday Night Live?
Oh, I
Ladies and
hope. I hope
gentlemen,
not. I hope we get better ratings than that.
ooh, harsh. Um, We are here. It is the week of World Semifinals. There are a maximum of 15 games of League of Legends left in the 2021 professional season. It's almost done. After this weekend, there will only be a maximum of five left. We've got quarterfinals to talk about, we've got semifinals to predict, and we've got the West to cry over. So, so let's begin. We're gonna start with the two series that don't have Western teams in them, so we can save our tears a little bit and really stretch out the drama for you guys. So we will start with the one of these three series that wasn't a sweep. EDG and Royal Never Give Up went to 5 games, with EDG taking the fifth game in somewhat dramatic fashion. It was every bit as close of a series as expected. It's been, as we discussed in the last show, a long time since these two teams have played in a series, and it was quite exciting and went to 5 games. So I'm just gonna go right to Eric to begin with. Eric, what stood out to you in this series,
Um,
whether on the good side or the bad side?
well, EDG proved me right in that they're a better best of five team because they know and identified RNG's greatest weakness and attacked it viciously and picked ban in all 5 games. And it sure worked. Because Crying looked atrocious on things that weren't Annie running out of mid lane.
Yeah, let me just they got Cryan's picks for the series were Rise, Annie, Galio, Annie, Oriana. The fact that we had an Annie ban forced in game 5 of a best of 5 in first phase of bans in 2021 was not a twist I expected out of the weekend.
No.
Eric, what did you think of competitive Annie?
Well, if you're looking to have your mid laner run out of mid lane as fast as possible, and it's like, all right, Cryan, you're not landing skill shots. Your whole job is to run at them and put a bear on Viper's face. That's your job. It's the only thing you're doing in this game. Just run and put a bear on him. Then, like, it seems like a legit strat. And ETG recognized that that was what they were doing, and so then stopped them from doing that. If only it could, like, you'd think if only then they picked like some other point and click CC mid laner like Malzahar, and then EDG banned Malzahar's second round of bans in that game too. Like they EDG had 3 mid lane bans in game 5, and RNG
If you
had
count Lucian,
2 mid
4 if
lane
you count
bans.
Lucian.
But Xiao would play Lucian, and so like it's so the point being is that there are like a ton of mid lane bans just to like make sure that Cryan can't play some kind of engage roam mid laner, and as long as he can't do that, RNG just can't win at League of Legends,
Well,
and it showed.
and like, let's be clear, it was Royal who banned TF LeBlanc every game, except for
Um,
one in
they
which
banned they
EDG
banned
banned the TF
yeah they
first
banned
ban.
TF every time they were on red side. So like every time that EDG would have had first pick, they banned the TF in addition to the LeBlanc. The fact that they had to ban LeBlanc both sides of the rift is really problematic.
All 5 games.
All 5 games, because like it just said that like Crying can't play this. We can't let that be how we play League of Legends, and, and that was problematic. Also, the fact that like their playstyle was so locked. They so like what in game 5 EDG like have their 2 mid lane bands with RNG's 2 mid lane bands, and then they first pick Rise, so that it's like there are no champions for Cryan left in the Rift, or first round champs left on the Rift for Cryan, and then RNG, they have Yuumi still up at that point, and RNG cannot lock Yuumi because they need Ming to play a roaming champion who can go to top lane to gank for Xiaohu, because that is all they can do to win at League of Legends. Which means that here at EDG get Yuumi for free, like after the first rotation of picks, even for just like locking in this absurd comp, and it's like it's like such an abuse of the fact that RNG have this set playbook that like they cannot pivot from. They are locked. There is one way to play. It is through Xiaohu in top lane, and it was punished heavily.
So can I just read y'all a stat from this series, and then I'm gonna feed Steven a question based on it. So the KDAs of the 10 players in this series, are you ready? All of them except one were between Gala at 4.4 and Flandre at 2.1. The one that wasn't is Mako. Mako's KDA in this series was 10. Steven, do you know what champions Mako played in this series?
Would it be Yuumi?
Nami, Yuumi, Lulu, Yuumi.
It might be Yuumi. Which might be an important champion to prioritize, especially with your AD carry being a baller.
I just like, and Royal is over here picking engage supports 4 of the 5 games, and I'm like, I don't know if this is working for you. Like the Nautilus pick in game 5 also seemed a little bit sus looking at these picks.
Well, they had to do something with Cryan not being able to engage. Like they had to kind of do that because they only know how to play that way, as Eric said. So like you kind of screwed yourself.
Well, and like the other thing with the engage in that game is first time the entire series that Lee Sin gets through. Royal gets Lee Sin. Nobody's gotten it the whole series. So you've got Lee to engage, you've got Nautilus to engage, and yet you have this Ezreal Yuumi thing that like it's kind of hard to deal with them
Because you can't lock it down. Even
Can't
with
lock it
all of
down.
that, it's impossible.
Eric, the Nautilus pick, did you like, dislike, find suspicious?
Oh, Nautilus has been very sus in the entirety of quarterfinals, and I expect it will continue to be.
It didn't seem like time for it.
Yeah, like Leona was open this game too, and I don't know why you would prioritize Nautilus over Leona. I guess the plan is that Nautilus ult, like even if Ezreal arcane shifts away, you can still land the knockup. But
you can still
like Leona's just such a more durable champion that Nautilus has looked very suspicious in the games that it was in.
Did Leona go unpicked in this series?
Yeah.
Unpicked, unbanned, the whole series. What on earth?
It's very strange. And honestly, I would say that Alistar is more useful than the Nautilus right now. I think, was it Cloud9 that played the Alistar once or something like that?
And Royal played it in game 2, this series too.
Yeah, I just think it's just more valuable.
Yeah.
But still, Leona should have been.
If we think back to the first episode we recorded during this tournament, when Leona was like 14-1 in the group stage of the play-ins, like the Leona priority has dropped, the enchanters have risen. However, I don't think Leona has gotten worse over the course of the tournament.
No.
Seems weird to me.
I guess if you're just kind of worried about pairing it against the Ezreal, but I mean it works really well with the Misfortune, so I don't know. I don't know. I guess they just don't play it.
Yep. Eric, I wanna go to your boy real quick. Flandre did look like probably the weakest member of EDG.
That's because he's getting tower dived. Like it's if you're up
Tower
against Xiaohu and it's like and your team is locked like Enchantress support for Viper, you know your duty. Your duty is to sit up there and take it. And you take it until your team wins. And
And it's
that's
not
what he
like you
did.
played an especially durable champion. Man played Graves 4 of 5 games. You're gonna die.
Yep.
It's just like if we look just at the stats, the lowest KDA in the series was on the winning team's top laner, and that's perhaps a concern moving forward, perhaps not.
I hope not. I'm pretty all in on EDG. I need Eric to train me as a fanboy, like real quick here, because I really do not want to see a
Well,
Korean
well,
regime
so
come in again.
to paint some narrative for you as a future EDG fanboy,
Yes.
this is uncharted territory for this organization. They had never, ever, ever gotten out of quarterfinals before. Losing in game 5 of this series would have been absolutely devastating for them again to have failed at this hurdle. Obviously, like that dovetails with Deft, who we're going to talk about later, who has the exact same problem with so many different organizations at this point, but many of them with this EDG team. And it is a huge step for them, but now like they're in uncharted territory, and none 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 of the players on this roster have ever been this far before in Worlds.
No.
And we've like they've won.
Griffin went out in quarters too.
Griffin
Right.
went on quarters, yeah. Like none of them have been to this point. So it's not that you expect the pressure to change at this point, but it's either like the gloves are off, now we've gotten past this break point, or oh, now we're really in deep, that I think could be an interesting team, especially we're gonna talk more about the matchups in a bit, but going up against a organization with several players won a world championship in the next round. I don't know if that will matter, but it's an interesting narrative point. But props to EDG getting the win. I'm very, very interested. Like both of these semifinal matchups are awesome and are going to be so much fun to watch because it's very, very interesting stuff all across the Rift. But EDG have broken their curse. They are into World Semifinals. Royal fall out after their extremely up and down time since MSI. I do not expect them to change anything, regardless of Cryan's weaknesses that were shown. It works most of the time. He is the school of mid laner that you'll note that if you look at the stats of the series, still ends with a KDA over 4, right? He's gonna have great stats, but is he gonna win you the game? We've seen like once ever, which happened to win them in MSI, where he did this. And their bot lane is great, but like it just feels like they are such a unique team because of how Xiaohu plays.
Yep.
But if there was an upgrade to be made, you have to feel like mid lane's where they would look.
And he can
Anyway,
do it with champion pool adjustments and just like better metas, maybe. So like even
yeah,
that's
and
kind
like in a different meta, Cryan could look great. Like, but if you can just ban TF away from somebody and have them be kind of useless, that's a problem. Anyway, moving on. Next, we're going to talk about the all LCK matchup, which I called correctly.
right.
This series was not close in any way, which is somewhat of a shame, but it T1's back. If you doubted before, they are here.
It was
And
against
they are two
Hanwha
best of
though.
fives from winning their 4th world title, from winning Faker's 4th world title.
I don't want it.
Eric, how did you feel about Faker and Chovy and Lane in these 3 games?
I love how in games 2 and 3, Faker's like, you can have the all-powerful mid lane pick in LeBlanc, and I'll just lock Lissandra with Aftershock
Per
and just like
usual.
CC you to death every single fight for the entire game. And then in addition to that, they lock like Poppy and like other hard CC champions, like with the Braum even, to just make sure that Chovy can't pop off and play League of Legends. And it's like, what a great awareness of the only thing that Hanwha Life Esports can ever hope to win the game with.
Would you
Yeah,
say they
this
canceled the Chovy show in
this
ticket
game
refunds?
two this game two comp, right? So HLE picks Renekton, Xin Zhao, LeBlanc, Varus, Nautilus. You know what shits on that entire top side? It's Poppy. All three of them have dashes. It's Poppy. So then, yeah, as Eric said, oh no, T1 has picked Poppy and Lissandra and Braum into all these people that are trying to jump on you and go in. And yeah, they just all died. And it's like, oh, we're gonna lock all these things down, and then our Aphelios is gonna kill all of you from far away. Oops.
3 times.
Like it was a great pick ban adaptation by T1 to bring the Lissandra back. It as a longtime LCK watcher, I live somewhat in fear of Korean Lissandra players because if you have never watched the LCK stream during a meta in which Lissandra is around, the Korean Lissandra voice sound effects are the worst thing in the game of League of Legends. They're awful. And I have watched some LCK metas where there was Lissandra every game, and it was not fun to listen to. So I'm glad that we have the English sound voiceover for this edition, but every single cue, man, ugh, it's so bad. But yeah, like T1 was just dominant, and HLE, like, an attempt was made. However, the thing that I have said about HLE for this entire series is that their top side sucks. Willer went 0-12-1 on the series.
Oh.
0-12-1 through 3 games of League of Legends. He got 1 assist in a best of 3.
Yeah, I don't know what he was doing.
Morgan got 2 kills.
Morgan got 2 kills. See?
Because he played Xin.
Zin's Olaf.
Yeah. Like, Olaf I could understand, but not the Xin. Like, the Xin should at least participate in the game.
Without just dying.
Right. You should get an assist.
Fair, like, this is like an LCK series, right? And you can see that by the first blood timings in some of these games. Like, I think it's like game 2 where first blood was at like 11 minutes. And it's like, compare that with like the RNG EDG series where Flandre's getting tower dove like level 3 or something. Like, you know, there's a bit of a pace difference for how many opportunities you have to get scoreline.
But with the Xin pick, you're opting into some kind of agency early, so like
it's in both game 2 and game 3, first blood came after the first Rift Herald, and that is not and if you've been watching LCS or any other league for the rest of the year, that's not a thing. Usually because somebody dies trying to take Rift Herald. But you know, details. And yeah, it was just like I'm gonna click through here just because I want to see. I don't think Hanwha Life had a gold lead in the series.
They were up 119 gold at the beginning of
game 1,
of game
or in game 3,
3,
and 98 in game 2.
Yikes.
But like not anything at any point past 5 minutes into a game ever. It was
that's just getting read like a cheap pamphlet and by the toilet. Like they had a plan, they very much executed, and I guess the Hanwha just like walked into it like, oh darn.
Well, and it's like you go back to the series stats, right? Hanwha Life's series big team stats. They got 9 kills, 4 towers, 2 drakes, and no barons.
Bark.
That's bad stats for one game. That's like a losing stat line in one game. That is a whole series. That's 3 games. They like just the most like this was the callback to this was worse than Dom 1 Dragon Eggs. It was less competitive than that series. And like, hooray, Deft's been on the losing side of two of the worst, least close best of fives in Worlds playoffs history,
Oof.
back to back. And yeah, like HLE, the like if we give them their dues, they need to buy a jungler who matters,
Yeah.
who impacts the
Participates in the
game
game.
at all.
Logs in to his client, queues
Like, because
up.
it is not that Deft is playing at the best point that he's played at in his career. But you have Deft and Chovy in this team. They placed 8th in LCK Summer and were terrible. Them getting to World's quarterfinals is a great achievement for them. This is a bad team. They're not good. I remain convinced they only got out of groups because Fnatic blew up from inside.
Yep.
Like, ugh, they drive me nuts. They're so not good. But T1's really good, and this was exactly as non-competitive as it should have been. So that's that's where we're at. And I am content to never talk about HLE again for the rest of the year. That make me very happy. T1 going forward, they look as good as any team in the tournament.
Yep. And they play EDG, correct?
Nope.
Oh. Oh no.
Nope. They play Damwon, who we're going to talk about next.
Oh, Spice. Okay, good. I like this. I like this already.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of semifinal series with some narrative shit. So let's move on to the untimely death of Mad Lions.
Bless.
And we made our predictions and had our consumed our hopium to an appropriate level, and then they got their butts handed to them a little bit.
I'm shocked, like that to that degree. Not that they lost, but that it was just such a lackluster showing.
I'm not. Almost really good. They're really, 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 really good.
Yeah.
It's they when Dom1 is on form, which they certainly have appeared to be since they haven't yet lost a game, or yeah, they haven't yet lost a game at this tournament. Um, they have arguably two of the three best players in the world. Like Canyon and Showmaker, you could pretty easily make the argument they are two of the best three players in the world, or if not two best players in the world
I
on the same
really
team.
expected one game though, man. Just
And you have
one.
Han, who is playing the best League of Legends he's played in years.
So game 2 was their game to win,
Yeah.
and they were winning it. And then all of a sudden, here they are at this Baron fight, and they forget how to play against Kennen. And so it's like this is totally a Mad Lions shot calling issue. It's not even necessarily all Damwon skill, though Canyon was absolutely sick in this series. It was more just that they completely forgot that when there's a Kennen on the other team, you don't cluster up in the Baron pit and then wait to die. And that's what happened. And they just like hard lost the game after having a 6K gold lead because they just like forgot how to handle this. And like this to me was a lot of this series to me was a lot of like inexperience from Elioya at a high level because he seriously underperformed in several key moments in this series, and as their key shot caller, it's pretty obvious when things are on him. And then, like, game 1, they hard into draft, which made it very hard to win the series or have a comeback when they, like, flexed the Graves to jungle, and Graves is not a jungle champion in this meta. You do not do that. It was very tragic. And so it, like, and then they gave the Lee Sin to Canyon multiple times. It's like, why would you do this?
All 3 games.
Why would you do this? It's like a very bad pick ban expectations in this series from Mad Lions.
Prioritizing Graves with a ban over Lee Sin is a drafting mistake.
What's
Straight up.
Kennan's win percentage? Isn't it something absurd right now? It's like 80%.
Like, yeah, it's really high. I don't think full 80. It's over 60.
72%,
Yeah.
13-5.
It's not with a lot of picks either. So I don't know. I would be cautious of that pick going forward because that it's real strong with those flanks.
Well, and it's so the one thing though is the Kennen has mainly been an answer to other locked top laners. So it's like another way to think about it, aside from just that Kennen's really strong, is that it's like when you get counterpick on top side, and you either have a good answer into their OP mid or jungle picks, or you are able to position it well, then you can sure take advantage of the game. Blind pick topside has been really strong if you actually pick a winning top laner when you have the counter pick, which certain teams didn't do.
I'd also like to acknowledge that one thing that was done correctly is that Yumi was banned all 3 games in this series. We called that as a move that needed to be made.
Seal of approval.
Oh God, we made Beryl play the game again, and he was good. Man picked Pike in game 3, and won with Pike.
And he kind of unlocked in this tournament, or like right before, because I remember we were talking like Barrel's like, Barrel's kind of like not playing up to par, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, here he is as good as ever.
It's Damon's bot lane's been the question all year, but they have won a world championship.
Yep.
Like it's kind of got to call back to that. I found it interesting that it was just control mage season in the mid lane in this series. It wasn't really surprising given the players involved and the TF and LeBlanc bans in every game, but like it's just interesting that that's how it ended up. But Showmaker goes Syndra, Azir Syndra, Humanoid goes Orianna Victor, dicks out one of his signature picks of the Victor in game 3. And that's not that surprising given the players involved, but it's not necessarily something we've seen come to huge prevalence in the tournament is full control mage season.
But I think that happens towards the ends of every Worlds, though. It's like, oh no, Oriana's back in a best of 5 at Worlds? I'm shocked.
What I think is interesting is like that we talk about the Worlds meme champions, right? Which Orianna and Lee Sin are both on that list. Kennen should be on that list now.
Yes, 100%.
I'm just going to say that. Like, Kennen moments happen in Worlds every single year at this point. There's like the Smeb moment will never, ever, ever be forgotten. That's the biggest one. But you've got like the moments against G2. You have the like even the turn in game 2 of this series. Like Kennen is one of those champions that just single-handedly can change a game completely. Then it comes out this time of year because it can win you a game one-handed.
Yep.
Yeah, the game 2, it was a chance, but one of the things that has been said about Damwon all year by me and people that know this game a lot better than me is Damwon is one of the best team fighting teams in the world. Give them the tools and they can win a fight.
And they had
they made a habit of doing this in LCK games this year of just winning from 5k down. You can't ever count them out. So good effort by Mad. The quick lookout. There's obviously been drama around the org from whatever their streamer guy was talking about Carzzy, which has, I think, certainly not created the exit from the tournament free agency experience they were hoping for. So I would say, like, without that, you would think they would probably just run it back next year. However, one suspects that Carzzy may be moving to a new home.
Yes. So I thought it was a partial owner of the Umbrella Corp. I don't think it was just a streamer person. Like they might have started as that and bought into but they have like org relations.
Shares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean that's gotta be brutal just to be that dense.
I mean, like TSM players are used to this by now. So
Right.
like just, Carzy, if you're looking for like another team that'll like build you up and then absolutely tear you down when it matters most, just come to NA. And there's
Carson, you
plenty
don't
of
want to
good
play with
options.
Bjergsen. Don't listen to him. You'll become a ward. You don't want to do it. You're better than that. No, go take Carlos's money instead. You're a G2 guy. You've got a G2 personality. Go do the thing.
Man, Carlos. Oh, his favorite was why buy players when you can get them for free. That one was my favorite. I was like, yes, that's good. That's how you redeem yourself after digging yourself down a little bit earlier. So,
Meanwhile, speaking of spending exorbitant amounts of money and looking terrible in a tournament, let's talk about C9.
yes. Oh my god. BDD is
Again,
such a
I
baller.
thought this
Holy
series had a
hell.
chance to be closer, and it wasn't
Oh
until
man.
game 3, and then it still kind of wasn't. Eric,
I'm just
Steven, what went wrong?
everything like it looked like they learned nothing from watching the TL games with with GenG, and I'm just like he's on Zoe again. This is gonna be disaster. Like just that alone, and then I believe there was the Jin pick that actually looked really good on GenG, and it's like, wait a minute, why are they able to pull this stuff out? And it's just like, oh, because they just outclass at every point.
The outclassing at every point. Y'all banned Nami games 2 and 3 because you were scared of Ruler and Life picking Lucian Nami when you supposedly have one of the best bot lanes in NA.
Supposedly,
That's a problem. Other teams
Well,
aren't banning the Nami.
no.
they specifically wanted to play engaged supports, which they did all 3 games.
Yep.
With the plan of having Vulcan roam. That was the plan. And he tried, but Vulcan played atrocious the entire series. So if you ask me for like a single thing that went wrong, it's like this was the true series where to me the Nautilus pick looked very bad. Where like there were several times when Vulcan would miss hooks and die, or when he would land hooks that he shouldn't have and then died. And that is very bad. And that's not just like a player skill or execution thing. Like that's what was your strategy in lane phase for this comp, and can you execute on it? And they could not. It was very poor, and there that was all over the Rift because game 2 they did lock the Poppy jungle. They locked the Malphite top lane for Blabber. This or for Fudge. This looks exactly like how Cloud9 should support it. Perks blind picks the Sylas mid lane, and there's absolutely zero ults on the enemy team that are worth getting with Sylas. And that
And he's
is
got Graves, Lee Sin, Syndra, Jin, Rakan.
and Rakan ult is probably the best one to pick up there. And like that is not a good spot for Sylas. And it's like the entire tournament so far, Sylas blind has been pretty decent because they'll have MF or a Mumu or Tryndamere or some other nonsense that you can take. But but in this quarterfinal stage with the return of Control Mage meta, Sylas is really not in a good space because people are going to pick Syndra and absolutely abuse you in lane phase, which happened, and then things go very poorly from there. Um, so like I think they had a really bad read on how to run pick ban, and then their reliance on engaged supports into GenG was not a winning proposition.
So I'm cheating and reading a Reddit post about this series here.
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
Um, Credit to SX Anthony 23 on Reddit. Game 3 of this series, Sven died 3 times with flash up in
Oof,
the last 10 minutes of Game 3 of this series.
that's tilt.
Uh, well, to be fair, a part of it was BDD landing absolutely absurd skill shots. That game also featured BDD landing bubbles in Fog of War through multiple walls from across a screen, and one of those was one of those deaths with flash up from Sven. Um, there were a
But
number
who
of
could
Fs
have
in the
known
outside
that
there.
BDD could do that? There's no way to tell that if he gets on that
Um,
champion that it's very
it
successful.
if you look at some of the stats in that game three, Sven only dealt 10% of the team damage in game three because he was not allowed to play League of Legends. Clid and BDD like absolutely focused him out, and like yes, he died with flash up a few times, but like there was so much going wrong in that game. Everything except for Fudge just epically fell apart and yeah, I like it. That one felt pretty lost, honestly.
Yeah, it was rough. And like again, we talk about teams coming into the series with a plan. Um, GenG's bans in this series in first phase of bans: LeBlanc, Aurelia, TF, LeBlanc, TF, Yumi, LeBlanc, TF, Yumi. Are we sensing a theme here of Perk's not getting to play the champions he's been best at lately?
Wow. Almost like doing research on your opponent and coming up with a strategy against them rather than just a generic strategy to try to execute on.
Yeah, like they and again, if you've watched C9 play, yeah, you don't want to give Perks LeBlanc TF. We know this. That's been good for them.
They also had a sick counter for his other pocket pick that he's played in NA, which is the Yasuo. And BDD locked the Aatrox into the Yasuo mid lane and absolutely destroyed Perks in lane phase. And so it's like, in addition to those, they had answers for his other blind pocket picks that like no team in NA would be willing to do. No mid laner in NA would lock Aatrox.
No.
That's not a thing.
So C9, what do they do? Quick version.
I wonder if they gut this roster just out of malice.
I don't think they can. I think they're kind of locked in.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's maybe bot lane changes. Like that's the only thing I could see happening. I would not be surprised if they sell off Vulcan after this. It wouldn't shock me. I don't like. I'm curious about how much longer Sven wants to keep playing, at least in NA. That's like the only other thing I'd see on the table. But like I wouldn't be surprised if they sell Vulcan for some bucks and then either promote Isles or pick up some other support.
Don't you think that like parting with Blabber now is actually a good call too? Just because he is so kind of hot and cold, and you can get a good dollar for him. No, okay.
He wins
But
NA
who do
like
you
every
have to
split.
replace him though? Who do you replace him with?
I mean, if only we were
Because
nurturing talent.
you can get good dollar for him, right?
Where did they get Blabber?
You have a built-in support replacement in Isles who has looked good
Mm-hmm.
in Academy League, who's C9 Academy's jungler.
I, I I couldn't tell you with the $1 million in front of me.
LCS Academy.
Who they pick up in scouting
No.
grounds? Who knows? Like I'm just saying. Like I think
Yeah, Turnfire, who has definitely looked good in his appearances in the LCS in years past.
I don't think that's on the table. Like they're gonna definitely keep Perks and Blabber at this point. Now that they've finally proven they can actually play on the Rift at the same time, like you ain't breaking that shit
They're
up.
keeping the top side together. I don't think that's a question. Bot lane is the question. Because Fudge was their best player the entire year this year. Like
yes.
you keep that core together, and then like promote King and Isles, whatever. Like
Yeah.
there are worse plans out there that'll save them some money probably. Like and King, I know didn't look the best in his time in the LCS this year, but give it a try. Just let acknowledge real quick that would mean they're playing a majority Australian roster in the LCS and expecting to win it, by the way. Just so we're clear about the depth of the LCO and the former OPL. Just saying.
Yeah. You might have mentioned that in the past.
I possibly, yes. It's like Australian players are good and people should be investing in their league. The end. So thus ends the West's participation in the tournament. It is now EDG against Korea. Um, we just finished talking about GenG, so let's talk GenG EDG in the semis. Um, what's your initial feeling for this series, Eric? I'll start with you.
Oh, EDG's going to stomp them. Like game one of this series with Cloud9 indicate to me that GenG still has their absolute complete inability to play the game from 28 to 32 minutes. They just don't know what to do. They were given a kind of a hard pass from C9 by either getting grotesque leads or massive throws. So like, or BDD on Zoe. Those were like the three things that happened. So like EDG, if they get back into the game at 26 to 28 minutes, they will not pull a C9 and they'll actually close. They've done this before. They're from the LPL. This is a thing that happens. They also aren't going to like have some of the pick ban problems. Like they're much more intelligent in how they approach the draft. They're also totally willing to match Enchanter support spot lane, which we've seen is like one of the crucial things in this meta. It's like if you lock the engage roaming support, you have to make it work, and the Nautilus pick doesn't do that. So like I definitely expect EDG to like be able to punish these Genji weaknesses, which were still there. It's not like they magically went away in quarters. And like so I'm thinking EDG 3-1.
As a
Steven?
EDG fanboy, I would have to agree. I do find it curious that both of these teams seem to have like won through the same mindset avenue. It's just like we have a plan that is based on the opponent. We are able to exploit these like supposedly roaming or hard engaged team compositions because we know that's how they win. And we can exploit weaknesses. I think EDG is better at finding those weaknesses either ahead of the series or even within it where they can adapt better, where I don't think GenG could do that through all the games to pull out the win.
I would add another similarity between these teams. These are two teams whose AD carries are their best players. And that creates an interesting play dynamic in teams because it's Viper and Ruler are the two best players in this series. I am comfortable saying that. And they have both learned quite well how to carry games over the years. I am very interested in how bot lanes shake out for this series because if there is a way that GenG comes into this series, it is by Ruler and Life being the better bot lane. I do not think that is likely because of how well Viper and Mako have played at this tournament, but that's how you win this series. And the other side of this is Scout has been in the best form of his life for this entire year. BDD has been in the best form he's been in years at this tournament. I think mid lane could be more interesting than we give it credit for. However, I don't think the champion picks are likely to shake out for it to be game breaking.
So I wonder if there's some weird priority over Ezreal.
They would both do it. That's part of the problem. Like they're both known Ezreal abusers.
Right.
And like Ezreal Yuumi is disgusting.
Yeah, like if Yuumi gets through, that's gonna be pretty upsetting.
I'm more expecting there's gonna be a lot of Aphelios, Lulu, and Lucian Nami in this. So like that'll be some pretty spice bot lane shenanigans.
Ruler's affinity for Jhin in the C9 series, if I'm remembering right, was interesting. Because he picks Jhin games 2 and 3, which feels a little bit side meta.
That's against the MF. So like the Nami was banned both those games and Aphelios. So like C9 was banning out like the Aphelios from Aphelios Lulu and the Nami from Lucian Nami to try and force them into having MF and a winning bot lane. And then the Jin is good into MF.
Yeah, because I
And it's
like
just like you
tactical
could.
on Jin in the
But for
GenG game.
example, you could pick Ezreal instead in that situation, and it could be an interesting look.
Yeah, like the Jin is more of like an actual winning lane, whereas the
Yeah.
Ezreal is more of a mitigation lane.
Yep.
So it's a bit of a
Depends on
more of
what
a
you want to
power
do with it.
play.
Yep. Having a game plan against your
Yep.
opponent during the series.
Yeah, like that's and like Steven brought up the point that these two teams were very well prepped for their series. I am interested to see what they have came up with for each other. It's one of the things that I think means this is going to be a very interesting watch, even if it isn't close. Like, how are they looking to address the problems that they have going into this, and what does that mean in pick ban? What does that mean in game? Yeah, I think this is going to be interesting to watch, even though I do agree that I think EDG is going to win it pretty comfortably, probably 3-1, as Eric said. So I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting, but EDG is certainly favored. Meanwhile, on the other side, we have the juiciest storylines that ever storyline to storyline, because Lord Faker returns for his throne. After giving it up to Damwon. Damwon is the dominant Korean team. Damwon are the world champions. Showmaker is the best player in the world. Faker and his T1 squad are like, hey, shall we test that in a best of 5 in the world semifinals? Um, it's so like the history implications of this matchup now are so interesting, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a good game. T1 has looked like, if anyone can match Damwon in this tournament, they've got a fair shot at it. However, let me just briefly go back and look at the LCK. Let's see. LCK Summer Playoffs. Did we see this matchup?
While
We
you're
did. This was
looking
the
through
one.
that,
It was 3-1.
3-1 to who?
3-1 to Damwon.
M1.
And
Has Damwon been challenged this tournament though? For real, for real.
no.
Not yet.
So I'm kind of curious if that comfortability opens the door a crack. No.
No. And like the LCK finals, Damwon wins 3 games in 40 minutes and gets face rolled in 20 minutes in game 3. Like, they relatively comfortably won most of the games, even if they went long.
But wasn't that still kind of a SKT that was like soul searching?
Oh
They,
yeah.
they in fact played Teddy in most of this series. So yes, they were.
Yeah, so I don't know how much relevance that has here, like TBH, but I do find it that they have such a, I don't want to say a better meta read, but SKT really looks like they know what's going on as far as like options, and I feel like having options within a best of 5 is really the greatest asset right now. So I think at a minimum they'll challenge Damwon.
I think that's a fair read. I am interested to see, in addition to how many times it is screwed up by the casters because it's really obnoxious, how the Kana Khan lane goes. Because they have looked like 2 of the best top laners in the tournament. But I don't trust Kana. It has been he's when T1 were not playing well, Kana was a coin flip player and either had great games or was awful. He has been awesome at this tournament, and it's been a huge reason why they are at the point that they are at. as has like this entire T1 roster. It's Faker has been playing a supportive role the entire tournament because everybody else in his team is playing so well. Kana is one of those like I don't trust that you're not going to turn back into a pumpkin at some point. It feels like
Especially in the face of Khan, like
and the other piece of this is in the irony in describing the history of this matchup, Faker is the only player on this T1 roster who has been to this point in Worlds before. None of the rest of them have been this far. Gumayushi's barely been playing professionally for a year. Like, it's different levels where this Dom 1 team won a world title with all of them except Khan. Like, it could be a factor, but also if there's any player who's it's yeah, none of them have been there before except for our three-time world champion mid laner, widely known as the best player in history. No big deal. Unkillable Demon King things. Um, it's just the series is going to be so much fun. I hope. I think there is at least a 10% chance that it is Dom 1-3-0 and it is not close. It looks like it should be really good. I think there is at least a 10% chance that it is 3-0 Dom 1 and it is not close. They have been that good. Have they been tested? No. But they've also looked kind of unstoppable in most of their games. And they're still one of the best team fighting teams in the world. They're still one of the best late game teams in the world. They still have some of the best late game shot calling in the world. You can't ever count them out of a game. I'm picking Dom 1 to win this series. I think it's going to be 3-1, just like the finals in the LCK. They're going to give one up. But I am not picking against them at all, as I have been saying since the start of this tournament. Eric?
I think it is going to really come down to just like raw skill and execution versus player slash head coach faker strategy. Like, is their meta read and in-game planning good enough to put them in a position where they have a well-mean advantage so that they can win these games? And the odds do seem pretty low to me too. But like that's what it would look like, is more like Lissandra answer into LeBlanc or other mid lane picks from Showmaker, and then snowballing Conic topside so he's not a coin flip because you have like a really powerful gank setup to make it happen. And but yeah, it seems pretty high risk. Cannon priority in this series is going to be pretty huge. Going back to that pick, because Khan and Kana can both play the champion, and having that team fight tool would be very good for a team that's trying to beat Damwon.
Yep. Steven?
I want to kind of like hope that SKT can do it. Only because I know they'll lose to EDG, so it won't be a problem. And as an EDG fanboy, that's what I need. But I think it would be like all 5 games, and it's going to be back and forth, trade, and then just whoever takes that first game, trade back, then they take the second trade back, and then come again in the 5th and get it. And that'll be all chalked up to SK's ability to adapt in a series and where they are finding answers to things that Damwon has to pick because it's the right pick for them. Something like that. So 3-2 T1. Easy.
Okay. Fair take. And then if the series go towards the expected favorites, which we would say are Dom 1 and EDG. We get the matchup after all of the weirdness of group stage and all the weirdness of everything else that people said was probably going to be the world finals going in. And we get it in the finals. If that's how it breaks down. Like Dom 1 EDG is the matchup that everybody wanted going into this tournament. And that's what we have a very good chance of getting at this point. So finals could be the hypest thing it could possibly be. This is a year where we don't have a semifinal that feels like a final, as has often happened with how group draws have shaken out in years past. It's if we get to the final and Dom 1 and EDG do their business in the semifinals, we get what people assumed would be the two best teams in the tournament playing in the final. Hard to ask for more than that as a neutral, which I am. NA sucks. Anyway.
They're showing it. They're showing that they're trying. God damn.
How many millions of dollars for how many semifinal berths? So many millions of dollars. Yeah.
I have no sympathy for Cloud9, but just disappointment.
I have no sympathy for Team Liquid, but just disappointment.
No.
Sorry, we haven't talked about no sympathy for TSM in a while, and I'd like to bring up the no sympathy for TSM argument.
Valid.
Yes. Yeah. You know,
all the
you
NA
spend
orgs,
$5
bro.
million, you should at least make the tournament. You know.
Speaking of $5 million, you should go to the Funky
And
store.
$5 million to Funky.
Get merch, buy all the stuff. There's Christmas gifts waiting, and people will love it, and you should buy them. It's a mood. You should do it, and then we can have $5 million and not get the semifinals.
Yep. I don't have anything else creative. Steven, what you been playing?
I got to gold. Eric boosted me. Yay! I played Blitzcrank in true Eric fashion. Yay! And I only ran it down half the time, but when I was running it down, I got the picks. So that's what matters, and that's how you get to gold. Is be a coin
Hex
flip
Flash
player.
to assert dominance.
I didn't do any Hex Flash. I usually love Hex Flash on Blitzcrank, but I was doing like really like lane, like we're gonna win this because we're gonna be so super healthy, and then I just started running around, and it was great. And Eric was like, "What are you doing? Why are you dying up there?" And it's like, we're gonna win. I'm getting gold. What this Blitzcrank skin?
Eric, what did you carry this poor sucker with?
I actually played a lot of Ezreal, if I'm remembering correctly. Mainly because the enemy teams would be like all engaged champs, and then Ziggs. It was like Ezreal or Ziggs, because like a lot of people are playing like AD all-in champions right now. And so it's just like, let's play something safe, maybe that brings AP damage. I'm gonna sit back and passively farm my way into winning this game. Yeah.
We got a lot of surrenders too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, there were like 3 surrenders in a row.
It felt good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Mad skills, yo.
You figured after 11 years of like, oh, it's the couple weeks before season ends, better get to gold real quick. I'd be more ahead of it, but no, it's always in the last clutch.
Yep.
David, what have you been playing?
I have been choosing not to play Earth, even though I want to, because I know it will just make me sad, because that's what it always does.
Do I smell a weeb?
I like I assume y'all haven't probably played much Earth either.
No.
But like I've been reading the Reddit threads and agreeing with them that people, the non-ARAM, not random champion choice Earth modes, it's to the point where, yeah, it's gotten a little bit too min-maxed, and like people know what's good and people play what's good even with bans, and it just kind of feels bad when I want to go fuck around. Like I want to do weird, random, hilarious shit, like have 80,000 Zyra plants in a lane.
Nope. There's only Evelyn Yumi.
Man, I think the last time Earth was around, I played against an Evelyn Yumi, and the Evelyn legitimately got 45 kills in 20 minutes.
Yes.
It was really unpleasant, and I didn't ever want to play it again.
And that's why Riot knew better than all of us. Like, well, we can't really put Earth in the game because y'all get frustrated and stop playing. So, no.
Yep,
and then
like
10 years later, Reddit's like,
where like I've thought about pulling open the client to give it a go, and I'm like, I'd just rather play an ARAM. Like,
yeah,
I like that's what I'm gonna do because it's gonna be more fun.
They should bring back Dominion.
They should bring back the Odyssey events. That is the old Riot thing that I most want them to bring back.
Or like the
Is
Star Guardian one. The Star Guardian one was legit.
Yeah,
we
the
need
one where you
more,
like
we
fought up
need
the
more
path.
fun PvE stuff.
Yeah.
That's
even
my
if
official
it's
take.
short term, I get where they're coming from. It's like they don't want to drag it out because it does get like found out. But something just like, I mean, you could have done something with Arcane or whatever. They still might. Who fucking knows? But they really haven't hyped it if it is coming. But that stuff was really good for like bringing people back in, or like getting a lot of people to play like a lot of games in a tight timeline if you wanted to like unveil a lot of skins at once and get your payment, especially with these battle pass things that they're doing. I mean, whatever they call them, tickets. Definitely not battle passes. That'd be weird.
I mean, we got that for TFT, but
I cannot get into TFT. I don't know.
That's
Sorry, Eric.
That's the Riot game mode I've played the most of recently.
No, that's an entirely separate game. It's not a game mode. That's a new game.
It's a fun game.
It's different. It's a different game.
Fine, I'll pick Eric for that one. Eric, are you interested in what you've seen for the stuff that's come out about the next TFT set?
I've been keeping my eyes off of that information for as long as possible.
Okay.
So that when it does drop, I can play games and be happy.
Okay. That seems like a wise choice. I'm going to ask this question now, even though it's going to be a week out, because we're going to be busy talking about Worlds next week. Arcane hype levels, where are we at?
So very hyped. I'm about to read the lore book again so I can catch all the references.
Because it drops in a week and a half. Just check to make sure I remembered that right. It comes out Worlds Final. It comes out the day of Worlds Finals. It's almost like they did that on purpose.
Weird.
Funny how that works. November 6th for both of them. So and we're going to talk more about this next week because I imagine we're going to start hearing about it, but I'm curious what they have planned for the final, because there's always some good theatrics involved in the opening ceremonies for the final. And obviously it's a different world, it's a different time with being in Iceland and doing things they're going to do, but it's been too quiet.
Yeah, there's no KDA like AI like dating sim or something. Like, I'm just so very confused.
They're just gonna redo the KDA concert, only this time it will be like projected on a glacier.
No, that's not the
like
run back they're doing.
At all.
That's not the run back they're doing. They're Imagine Dragons is going to play in Iceland.
Oh yeah, they're playing anime. That's right.
Because Imagine Dragons has a song on the Arcane soundtrack. They're going to run back 2013.
Ooh, I like that.
Like that's been the thing the Arcane Twitter's been hyping all day today, is they're releasing one of the songs from the soundtrack tomorrow. That's Imagine Dragons on the soundtrack. And it's like, there you go. That's what you're gonna do. You're gonna stick Imagine Dragons in Iceland, have them do a show. There you go.
Easy.
So, yeah, ain't gonna be no bird's nest, but nothing. It's gonna take a while before we get the CGI dragon top that again. When's next time it's actually gonna be in China in a real time? Because that's when it's gonna get topped. But details.
Yeah, I think that's 5 years.
Who knows with how the timelines have gotten screwed up.
Yeah.
Too. Like,
but next year's for sure in North America.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think we're gonna end up screwing something up, because there you go. All right.
Now.
We'll be back next week. We'll talk about the semis. We'll preview the finals, and then the season will be over. Then we can start talking about free agency in North America.
Yes.
Everybody's fit. Gag me.
Maybe we can talk about it a little about LEC too. Just
I hate the LCS. Hate it. I don't know why I watch it. Watch more LPL. The end.
The end.
I shill for the Eastern Leagues. That's why I'm on this podcast.
Hey, maybe
I'm here
we'll
to
be
shill for
buying
the
some
LCK.
of them.
I am here to shill for the LCK and the LPL. That is why I am here. That is my purpose.
Perfect. What is your purpose? I shill.
I shill. I shill for the LCK and the LPL. It's what I do.
Love it.
All right. We're out. We'll see you next week. Deuces.